Hey y'all, welcome to the Big Mama Was Wrong podcast. I'm your host Marisha, and here we dive into wellness and growth surrounding mental health and culture. Let's get into it. So glad that you could join us for today. This is actually an exclusive episode that wasn't originally included in the episodes that I thought I would be recording, but this month is actually National Suicide Prevention Month. And so I wanted to do an additional episode for this series to include suicide awareness as well as suicide prevention, but just suicide awareness. A lot of times in the Black community, we have stigmas surrounding issues in the mental health community, and suicidal ideations as well as suicide attempts or even suicide behavior are usually included in that, where you usually get the response like, oh yeah, Black people don't do that. But Black people do indeed, just like any other race, they do indeed have suicidal behavior. And there has been an increase. If you look at the statistics over the years, there has been an increase in the Black community. So I wanted to make sure that we talked about that and put it out there. Today, you all probably heard him in one of the earlier episodes, which was Mr. Blaise Harris. He's my friend and colleague, and he has a very unique story. He has a very unique story that led to him becoming the dope Black therapist that we all get benefits of listening to the gems that he drops. So we're going to talk to him. He's going to tell you his story. We're going to chop it up a little bit. Because he's in our earlier episode, you can catch his fuller introduction, but he'll briefly introduce himself now, and then we'll just hop in. You got it, Blaise.
All right. Okay, let me see. Let me do it right. Blaise Harris, licensed clinical mental health counselor, EMDR certified therapist. I am an author, a speaker, an educator, podcaster, single father trying to do good things in this world. So that is me. I think I hit all the hot spots. I'm pretty sure that Marisha or some of our other friends will really call me out if I don't hit everything like it's supposed to be hit. But I think I hit the high notes.
It's technically not true, but for the record, it was a very lovely introduction. Once you have it, we're gonna keep moving. So we do know, based on your book, Becoming the Dope Black Therapist, there's a part where you talk about having suicidal ideations, and then there was actually a suicide attempt. So So my first question is, looking back on it, what were you experiencing at that? So I'm not asking like what was your method or anything like that, but just like what was happening at that time that led you to the point like this is what I need to do.
So the biggest thing for me was I was going through a separation at that time, and I was in humongous state of depression. So I was constantly sad. My mood was just extremely low. I was crying daily. I wasn't eating. I wasn't sleeping. I didn't want to do anything. Everything, like my house was my safe space. It like hurt to go outside of my house. It was one of those things where I was experiencing some of the most emotional pain that I've really ever experienced it. And it was extremely dark for me. It was extremely dark for me. And it's almost as if it's complete darkness. And when there's complete darkness, there's no light, there's no sound, there's nothing. And that's what it felt like. And I was hurting on a level that I've never hurt before. And there was nothing to really soothe or ease that, and then it got to a point where I started feeling numb.
Okay.
I started feeling numb, where nothing really fazed me. There was no happiness, there was no sadness, there was just me. And I didn't know how to make it stop.
Gotcha. Okay.
I didn't know how to make it stop. And it was I didn't know how to make it stop. I just know I wanted it to end. And it felt like I thought of it in the beginning. It was more like just fleeting thoughts of what would happen if I wasn't here, or if
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't here, I wouldn't have to feel this pain anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like ain't nobody gonna miss me. Ain't nobody gonna. It's not gonna be a big deal. You
Mm-hmm.
know. And then it started getting louder and
Mm-hmm.
louder and louder. And it was just like, maybe I should, because I don't want to. I don't like this feeling.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like this feeling, and I don't want to feel it anymore.
Did you tell anyone about the thoughts you were having?
Not not in the beginning.
Okay.
I pretty much kept it to myself, because that's what we're supposed to do, right?
That's
When you're
what it
supposed
said.
to have any, we're not supposed to have any feelings. We're not supposed to, and I as a black man, and then as a first responder at that, I'm not supposed to be thinking about suicide or hurting myself in any way, shape, form, or fashion. I was supposed to just suck it up. I'm supposed to just man up and deal with it.
I forgot you were a first responder at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I imagine it as like this extra layer of, being tough or just
Mm-hmm.
being, masculine and not so much having, I would say, such an elixir of
Mm-hmm.
emotions happening at that time. But I forgot you were a first responder. So
Mm-hmm.
how long would you say the thoughts were happening before you got to the point where you felt like I'm just gonna do it? Like how long had you been contemplating before you got
Ah man, so that was probably like a month or so.
okay.
It was probably a month or so, maybe two. It was just it was because like work was an escape for everything.
Hmm.
What I mean? When I went to work, I was great.
Hmm.
I was at that point where okay, I can focus on this. I know I can clean this truck up. I know I can. I get an hour to do a workout, so I can do that workout and I can go really hard. So I get my mind off of everything else I need to do. I'm
Hmm.
saving people. I'm driving this truck. These people are counting on me to get them from point A to point B. I'm going to get them from point A and point B so they can all get home. But then
Gotcha.
it's like I don't want to go home.
Was it one of those things where you didn't want to be alone with your thoughts?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, because at the time, when I was alone, it gave me more time to think. And
Right.
at the time, I was thinking, going through that divorce and the separation, I was thinking about, well, what's she doing? Is she with somebody else? Are they better than me? Are they doing all these things better than me? Are they doing stuff with our kids? Or is it like, does she even care about me anymore? Will she even care if I wasn't here anymore?
Hmm.
And it was all of those things that was going on in my head. And so when I had other people around me, it was quiet for a little while, but then was like whispering.
Hmm.
So it wasn't completely gone.
That's what I call like, or what I compare to the refrigerator hum,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like the refrigerator is always on,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just sometimes that the humming is louder than others. But
Mm-hmm.
it's always been on. It's just for some reason like, yo, is that the refrigerator?
Yeah.
Only because you have those quiet moments or those slower moments.
Mm-hmm.
That makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
Was there ever a time that you were afraid?
But yeah. Yeah. I was I was afraid all the time, to be honest,
Hmm.
because it's like, what happens if I do it?
Hmm.
And then it's just like like in the beginning, I wasn't thinking about anyone else, about how anyone else would react
Hmm.
to me. Because in my head, if the person who I was separated from didn't care, then who else would?
Gotcha.
And that was a thing that was it for me. And then when I actually did it, and it and I know you didn't ask earlier, but it's just like when if it's okay with you, I'll go into it if that's all right.
Yeah, have what your comfort level.
Okay, so what it was is I went and I cut
Hmm.
myself, and the first cut I was like, oh yes,
Hmm.
I finally feel something again.
Hmm.
And I cut again, I was like, oh, finally. And the third cut, I was like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah,
That's when I got to be afraid. It's like, what am I doing? And like,
gotcha.
what am I doing? And that's when I got scared. And that's when I started making phone calls.
Okay.
And that's when I was like, okay, I'm not okay.
Hmm.
I'm not okay. So I called my grandma, I called I called my cousin, and I called my ex, and I called like the person that I was seeing at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, "This is what's going on with me. I'm going to get some help. I don't know where else to go, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm going here. And I know that this is a place that I'm supposed to go to. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm just supposed to show up and tell them what's going on with me.
Gotcha.
And I reached out to the facility, and they said, bring this, and this,
Okay.
and come. And that's exactly what I did. And that's when it got really scary because like, oh snap, this is real.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is real. Is I've never been like I've been to jail to visit people
Mm-hmm.
before, and everything just like all the doors, like you got to have a card to get to one area to the next, and the doors
Right.
hear that clunk.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's just like that's for me.
Yeah.
Like that's for me now. And then I'm going into this place. I don't know what they're going to do to me. I don't know what these people are going to look like. I don't know how that's going to affect my job, how that's going to affect my kids. Are they going to take my kids away from me? Am I going to be locked away forever?
Mm-hmm.
And that's when it really got scary for me. It was when those doors closed, that made it real. That made it all the more scary for me.
That made sense. So during the time, so you went from like not caring or feeling like you didn't care because this was the numb part. Like, would
Mm-hmm.
anyone really care?
Mm-hmm.
Would that type of thing? Going from that to like having something again to care about, caring about the custody of your kids,
Mm-hmm.
caring about am I even going to get out of here?
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that was a light bulb moment that you needed, or would you say that was just kind of what confirmed to you that you were on the right track? Like what type of eye opener was that for you?
I think it was a little of both.
Okay.
I think it was a little of both. I think it was, I definitely needed it.
Mhm.
I needed that reality to hit me in the face really hard
Mhm.
because I had been avoiding it so much because like again, remember, I was in that dark
Mhm.
and I couldn't see anything. I couldn't, only thing I could hear was my own thoughts, and my thoughts were not the best things for me to be hearing when I'm alone,
Right.
you know. And then it was just like, okay, now it was just like, well, you weren't thinking about this before, but think about that impact. You know, your kids wouldn't have a father.
Mhm.
You know, your mom would be losing a son. You know, your crew would be losing a brother.
Mhm.
You have so many people who say they love for you and care for you. What would that do to them if you weren't here? But it was really and truly my kids. I wouldn't want to cause them any kind of pain.
Mhm.
I wouldn't want them to think it was something that they did. Hell, I wouldn't even want their mom to think it was her fault. Because I mean, it really and truly it wasn't. It wasn't her. It was
Mhm.
all me.
Yeah.
This was all a me thing. And it was me wanting to not hurt again
Mhm.
instead of not understanding why I was hurting.
Gotcha. So it's kind of like it was kind of like and I don't minimize this when I say this, but
Mm-hmm.
it sounds like it was like a surface response,
Mm-hmm.
and that it wasn't necessarily something where you got to the root of what was going on, that you took the time to understand what was going on as much as it was just like, I don't know what this is, but it has to go.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 It's one of those things. It would have been a permanent decision for a short-term problem.
And
And
that's what a lot of people say.
yeah, and I didn't realize that at the time because only thing I could see because that short-term problem was all that I could see.
Mhm.
It was so pretty much surrounding me and enveloping me into this space.
Right.
Like I couldn't see anything, I couldn't hear anything. So that means I couldn't like it was just the silence was so loud that it drowned out everything else that could have come in to actually benefit me and help me.
Yeah. Like you were in a hopeless space.
Yeah.
Sometimes I compare severe depressive episodes to like you seen Get Out?
Hmm.
You know the part where she's telling him to sink into the floor and he
Oh,
sinks into the floor and then he's like
yeah,
trapped in his own body and he
yeah,
can hear everything that
yep,
is being said, but just not really being able to respond, not being able to really defend yourself,
yeah,
not being able to move forward, not being able to run, just
yeah,
being able to hear and just being
yeah,
trapped in yourself. A lot
yeah,
of times that's how I guess you could say I was about to say I liken, or that's what I compare.
yeah.
That's the imagery that I use for severely depressive episodes.
Right. And what's wild about that is that's what I call my depression was the sunken place.
Mm,
Like that was what it felt like. And it was, I mean, it was a scary place to be. And I've even and like when I'm journaling, when I would journal about it,
mm,
like I couldn't write. So I just painted my whole page black. And you would see the flashes of like the red because that's
mm,
what it felt like it was going on for me,
mm.
and so and it's I don't like that place,
Yeah, of
and,
course
and
not.
it's like I don't like that place, and I don't go back, I don't go there. And I think one of the things is one of the things that I've learned, not just as someone who survived his attempts,
Uh-huh,
but also as a therapist, is like how alone we feel. And then like there are people who actually know what's going on,
uh-huh.
but they don't know how to address it. You know what I mean? So it's just like they don't know how to bring it up, because it's one of those things is one of the things that they're afraid of is if we ask about it, it's going to lead to them doing it.
Right. And that was one of the questions that I had. Actually, I was multiple questions were coming. But the first question was whenever you called your loved ones, how did they respond?
My grandma broke down
Okay.
and started crying. My cousin, it's like, yo, man, do what you got to do, man. I'm here for you, man. You ain't got to worry about that, man. I got you back, man.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's what it was. It was immediate support.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I think like when I called the kid's mom, she was more concerned about the kids, which I understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of those things. It was just like, man, she was dealing with her own things at the time when I did that. And it's like your ex-husband is calling you saying that he's admitted himself to a mental health facility because he had a suicide attempt. Can you imagine the amount of stress that put on her,
That's
and
probably
what that,
scary.
you know what I mean? And just like
Mm-hmm.
what that would make her feel like, just like, and it's just like that's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of fear, and I imagine there's a lot of thoughts were going through her head during that time, at the same time. And it's just like, man, that's one of the things that's one of my biggest regrets, but also one of the things that I'm glad that I did, because keeping it to myself wasn't going to help me.
That's true. So was this your first attempt?
No, it was actually my first attempt. I was 17
Okay.
in high school, and it was weird was I was probably the most popular kid in my school. I was,
Mm-hmm.
football captain, track captain in every club. The teachers loved me. You know, I got along with everyone, and it was one of those things, but it was just like I never it's one of those things where I'm smiling on the outside,
Mm-hmm.
but I am screaming for help on the inside because I didn't think that I was good enough. I never thought that I was I never thought that I never thought that I would be anything.
And that's crazy to me because I'm listening to you describe all the things that you had going on,
Mhm.
meaning like all the things you were a part of, how respected it sounds like you were, how admired, how loved you were by other people, but inside yourself you still felt like this ain't it. Or
Yep.
just the word that comes to mind is like the self-hatred, but not
Yeah.
necessarily the self-hatred just as much as like how everyone else is presenting everything on the outside, but in the inside none of that validation was like solid enough for you
Yeah.
to to embrace who you were.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I know now is because I was trying to get the love and attention from certain people and I wasn't getting it.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Father wasn't around, grandma, big mama would minimize.
Don't do that.
I mean, but she would minimize my accomplishments.
Hmm.
And it was one of those things. It's like, I couldn't get the girl. I couldn't get the, you know what I mean? I couldn't get a girl that I wanted. How about that? And no scholar, I wasn't getting athletic scholarships that I wanted. I wasn't as I didn't see myself as good as I wanted to be. And I thought because my grandma didn't see it, or my grandma didn't celebrate it, or my dad didn't celebrate it or didn't want to be a part of my life or anything like that. It's like nobody made a big deal about what I was doing, even though I was doing way better than so many of my classmates, but my classmates were getting this and my classmates were getting that and all that stuff. And it was just like, it's something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me. And it's like, why don't people want to celebrate me? Why don't people want to, why can't I get this? Why can't you see me? And I would be the first person to speak. I speak in front of crowds. I would dance in front of crowds. I was loud. I was the life of the party. I was doing all this, and I was doing it because I wanted to be seen.
Hmm.
And I felt like that was the only way I could be seen if I was on the stage and a spotlight was on me because I wasn't getting it at home.
I feel
And
you.
I wanted to feel like I mattered, and I didn't feel like I mattered. And so at 17, that's a whole lot. I don't feel like I matter.
Hmm.
I don't feel like you care about me. I don't feel like you give a if I was here or not.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to be here.
Got you. So the second attempt was the final attempt.
No.
Okay. And I'm
No.
not even judging you. It's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
because I read the book and I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So
So
that
yeah.
wasn't the final one, but we talk
No.
about how we're going from why the first one happened, why the
Yeah.
second one. The second one, you're saying you saw the light bulb came on.
Yes. Yes.
How
The
do
life.
we get to a point where there was an additional one? Respectfully.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you're good. You're good. So the second attempt, so we separated in August. I believe I made the attempt September, October.
Hmm.
I was, I was on meds, I was in therapy and all that type of stuff. Right.
Hmm.
What two holidays come after? You know?
Two of the worst to be alone on.
Yes. Yes. So November, Thanksgiving came around. We usually go to her folks' house and all this type of stuff, and not invited. Same thing with Christmas, not invited. Kids separate on both of those days instead of everybody being together. And then I remember it was I think it was New Year's Eve. No, no, no. The day before New Year's, it was the 30th, right after my daughter's birthday. And I was in that big old house by myself the day before New Year's. And that was it. And that was I was there by myself like that after those holidays for the first time ever.
But that was another light bulb, but it was just a negative one. Okay. What was your response? So now that you've had multiple attempts,
Mhm.
how are your loved ones responding to how are they responding to you?
If I call and I say I need to talk, they listen.
Okay.
Like they'll talk. It's like me and my grandma, we've had a lot of conversations about stuff, and she had no idea that some of the things that she did and some of the things she said had such an effect on me.
Hmm.
She said if she would have known, she would have done things differently, which I believe.
Hmm.
And she's made an effort. She's made an effort in how she addresses me, but she also knows that if it's too much, then me and the kids ain't coming.
Okay.
You know, with my ex-wife, we actually communicate now. And that's something that was lost a lot in our marriage. Didn't talk at all, hardly. And if it was a lot of blaming, and it was a lot of me shutting down and her wanting things, but not me not reciprocating. And a lot of stuff we were being petty.
Mhm.
So we were being petty towards each other a lot of the times. And now is, you know, she I think she values what I have to say now. And I value what she has to say a little bit more now. I think both of us went through some 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 really difficult growing periods.
Mhm.
It was that growth. It'll hit you with so many things, and I think we had to both go through it. We had a conversation not too long ago. I said, I wasn't good. I said I wasn't good for you, and she said I wasn't good for you either, and I didn't know how much I needed to hear that.
Mhm. I can imagine.
You know what I mean? Because it felt like I was the only one that was the issue, not her.
Mhm.
And in that moment, she took accountability, and she said it was a lot of stuff that she needed to work on, and she realized, you know, and I was like, thank you, you
Mhm.
know, and it was good. So it's like we have really good conversation now. So
So with the multiple attempts and then you keeping your family in the loop, like I was going through a dark time, this is what was
yeah.
happening. It's now that you are in a much healthier space and now that you're also a clinician,
Mm-hmm.
in retrospect, we're I don't even know grammatically. Am I supposed to say, was there anything that's is was is correct? Was
Yeah.
there okay. Was there anything that you were doing? Were there any indicators that they missed?
Oh yeah, my family miss everything. All
Okay.
of it. They miss everything.
Okay.
But I mean, but a lot of it is just like I'm really good at masks.
Okay. So is it safe to say that because you had masks that it was far more difficult for them to kind of catch on to what was going on?
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time though, it's like how there's this thing where we say check on your people
Mhm.
and all this kind of stuff. I'm always the checker. Nobody
Um,
checks on me, so how would they know?
that's solid. There's been a lot more resources, a lot more information that's been rolling out surrounding suicide.
Hmm.
And some of the indicators that published resources will say if a person starts to isolate, if they
Hmm.
start making statements like, I don't want to be here anymore, if they
Hmm.
start giving all their stuff away, if they
Hmm.
start expressing suicidal ideations on social media, there are
Yep.
all these things that we can look for.
Hmm.
What would you add to that list? As not just as a clinician, but as a
Right.
person who,
Right. Well, I mean, to be honest with you, those were the main ones that I did. You
okay.
know, if you see that if I'm like this person is usually posting like every day, every moment of their day is being broadcast, whether it be a reel or whether it be a Facebook post and all this type of stuff, and then all of a sudden this shit just drop, that's a sign. You know what I
Okay.
mean? Like this, like check in on your people. If you see that, like the isolation piece, one of the things was, and this is one of those things that I used to my advantage because I was studying for the lieutenant's test and for promotion.
Mm.
And so when you do that, you can go to the other side and study on your own.
So it looked like you were more so preparing instead of isolating.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm. If this person is usually the life of the party, like when they walk in, everything lights up, and then when that person walks in, like everything just comes down.
Mm-hmm.
I started sucking out all the energy in the room when I walked in.
Got you. Okay.
Isolation. Oh, they dropping weight like that,
Okay.
or they putting on weight like that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was about to be my other question because, people can be emotional eaters
Yep.
as well. Yeah.
Hmm. So, things they're constantly, they're always on the move, always up. I mean, they're not sleeping. They're not doing any types of things. And you start to noticing, all the saggy and bags up under their eyes and all this different type of stuff is like those are just the things that you need to look at. They're not engaging in the video games and stuff they would normally do. They always are people who was like, hey, let's go and get on and let's do this. Let's do this game and let's do this campaign tonight. You down and they don't want to do it anymore. Or the people who are constantly checking on you and they don't check on you anymore,
Mm-hmm.
check in on them.
When a strong friend disappears.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with all of those. A lot of times in the mental health field, we talk about safe spaces,
Yeah.
healthy communication. What do you believe is an appropriate way for someone to ask you, are you having suicidal ideation? So, okay. So the other day,
Hmm.
this is like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I was driving to Nightdale the back way, using
Hmm.
like, the little winding
Oh
road
yeah.
system.
Oh yeah.
So I drive over a bridge and there's a lady by herself, no vehicle present, just standing on the bridge with a jacket on during the summer, looking across the water. So initially, my mind is like, oh my God, I hope she's not suicidal because, my therapist had it still on, whatever. So there's a car behind me that pulls over because I'm looking in my rearview mirror and the car behind me pulls over. So I'm like, okay, I'm sure she's okay. But even as I was driving down the road, I'm like, but she really might not be okay. Your mind starts going through all these
Yeah.
different things. So I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
even if she's not, I'm going to turn around anyway and double check because that could be something that I missed just by assuming that someone else addressed it. They could have been pulling over to ask if she needed a ride, not asking if she was
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I circle back, pull over, and I'm asking her like, are you okay? And she smiles and she's like, yes. And I'm like, do you need anything? And she's like, no. And I'm like, are you having any thoughts to hurt yourself? And she chuckled and she was like, no, I'm fine. But I feel like all those were like mental health
Yeah.
type
Yeah.
ways of addressing it. And when I say mental health, I mean as a clinician because my clinician
Yep.
helps on. Whereas
Yep.
if it was like a friend, I don't think I would have gone through those series of lines of questions the same way.
Hmm.
So leading into what I wanted to ask you is what do you feel like an appropriate because everyone may not have clinical terms.
Yeah.
What do you
Um,
feel like the appropriate way to check in on someone that you think is suicidal?
you good? Are
Or
you are you good? Like, what's going on? That's all I want to ask for somebody to do. If somebody would have just asked me if I was okay, I would have told them everything, you know.
but what about the people that don't? What about the people
So
who they're not as forthcoming? What about the people who are like, yeah, I'm good. How about you?
yeah. So all right, so that's one of those things is just the one of the things that I look at for that one is it goes back to knowing your people too.
Mm-hmm.
If
Okay.
if you know your people, like you think you know your people, you're gonna be able to tell if something's off, regardless of how good their mask is.
But should you challenge the mask? So if they're telling you everything is okay, do you keep
Uh-huh.
pushing like, I don't know, I know you. And I
Yeah,
usually, when it's time for us to ride, you ride. Or when it's time for us
yeah,
to, do you
yeah.
challenge that or do you just kind of take it for what it is?
So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna challenge it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna keep challenging it, but then I'm gonna be like, all right, I have to take your word for it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not gonna push anymore, but let you know that I'm here.
Is it ever okay to violate boundaries to maintain somebody's safety or to save someone's life?
If they got a plan and they have an intent to do with that plan and they have the means to tell that plan, absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. If you come and tell me that I got this weapon or I have this medication that I'm going to take right then
Mm-hmm.
and there, I don't care. I am telling.
Who do you tell?
I'm calling 911. I'm calling 988. I'm calling they people who live close to them. I'm driving on the way over there myself if I can, if I know where they are, if I'm close by. I am posting on their social media. I'm doing all of this stuff to try to do anything that I can do to get somebody there to that person if I can't get to them before they do.
Right. I agree with that. I think the only thing that I wouldn't necessarily do is go to someone's house.
Yeah.
That's only as a precaution to me because you
Yeah.
just don't know, like, for
Mhm.
safety reasons, you just don't know
Yeah.
where a
Yeah.
person is. But I agree. Sometimes it's worth it. Now, to be honest, I had never thought about approach like taking the social media approach is just like calling 911, telling them what's happening, calling their people, that type of thing. But I never thought about social media, like writing on somebody's wall. I know you home, but it makes sense,
Yep.
taking whatever approaches that you need to to take. So,
And people knows it anyway.
and are very much so. Okay, that's solid. A lot of times, I believe that kindness can make like a world of difference.
Absolutely.
Sometimes people can be suicidal in the grocery store or in traffic, and the rudest person is the person that just talks them off the ledge without even knowing it. What advice do you have for people who know that their loved ones may already be, on the brink, or they believe that could be considering? How do you feel like communication and the interaction should be?
So a big thing that I know, and I've said this before and several times, when it comes to not just in my sessions, but just to the people that I care about, like meet people where they are instead of where you expect them to be. Because just because something don't bother you doesn't mean it's not bothering them.
True.
And it's one of those things where you have to take that spotlight off of you for a minute, because in that moment it is not about you.
Uh-huh.
It is about them and what they need. And so talking to them like they matter, talking to them like they are important to you, talking to them like you care about them. You could be a jerk tomorrow,
Yeah.
but today they don't need that. Be who they need, not who you want to be. You know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I hear you. I feel like this has been a pretty fruitful conversation. Do you have anything, your shameless plugs? Do you have anything that you want to add? Anything that you want to share? I know last time it was the Black Father Summit, which was fantastic.
Thank you.
Do
Thank
you
you.
have anything that's going on at the moment?
Nothing coming on at the moment. Actually, that's not true. I'm speaking at the Doubt Yourself, Do It Anyway Summit in Edinburgh, Scotland in July of next year.
Beautiful.
So that's pretty awesome. I'll be presenting on Fresh Out the Frying Pan into the Fire, what it's like to leave the comforts of one job and going into something completely different.
It's a very fitting topic from a former first responder.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I am also speaking at the Black Mental Health Conference in Durham, which will be on, I think, January 31st and February 1st. And I'll be doing They Not Like Us, why Black men and first responders don't go to you for therapy.
Mm,
So I'll be talking about that. Those are the biggest two things that are coming up right now. Yeah, that's it. Becoming an adult Black therapist is still available. There might be I guess I don't know if it's a sequel or something else, but I'm cooking up a little something right now too.
let's do
Um,
it.
yeah, so going that route. But other than that, everything's still well. I'm hosting more. The men's groups are still going well every other Thursday. The next group will be October the 3rd from 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern, and I can send you a link for that for
Yep.
people who are listening who want to attend. Yeah, that's it for right now. I think that's plenty.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, you're out here doing big things. I love to see it.
Yeah.
So, what's your final thought for someone who
Mhm.
has been contemplating suicide or is actively engaging in self-harm?
Right.
And then the other one, what's your final thought for a loved one of someone who may be having some suicidal
Oof.
thoughts or behaviors?
Man, go on. This hit me with some big ones.
Listen, you got
Um, First, you're not alone. I know that it might seem like people don't care. It might seem like, you know, people aren't supportive. It might seem like you're fighting this battle and there is no end to it. I'm here to tell you that there is, and there are people in your life who will be there for you. There are people are in your life who love you and who are going to hold you and hug you and help you get to the point where you need to be. It's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to receive it if it's offered.
yeah,
You know, as far as family members and friends and stuff go, again, just meet them where they are. You don't always have to be so hard. Sometimes tough love ain't the best kind of love to give to someone, especially someone who's going through this type of time. They need love. They need to know that they can count on you and that you actually hear them, that you actually see them, that you are going to be there for them. Meet them where they are. not where you think they should be. Be there for them.
Thank you for that. Thank you for even agreeing and, to come in and talk to me, not just as a clinician, but just as someone who, has experienced suicidal ideations and allow me to ask you questions and being open and honest about it. I appreciate that. I appreciate you for
Absolutely.
being the dope Black therapist and friend that you are. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode. If you've liked what you heard, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps us reach more people who might benefit from these type of conversations. Also, we'd love to hear your thoughts and questions about today's episode. Reach out on Instagram at Marisha Cares or send an email to contact@callmarisha.com. Your feedback and stories are always welcome. Last, make sure you check out show notes for inspirational bonuses.